So it's important to find that balance point where you know enough to feel comfortable, but you haven't moved into information complacency, where you just continue learning and not taking action.
Go on an adventure, go on an adventure, go on.
Hi, I'm Jesse Miles, and I want to teach you personal finance. I have a master's in international business from the Swiss School of Business and Management in Geneva, Switzerland. I've owned and operated multiple businesses, and now I teach business and personal finance for a living. I believe that it's crucial for young people to understand personal finance, debt, credit, loans, real estate, taxes, saving, investing, digital currency, digital finance, in order to fund their own great adventure and live life their way. So today I wanted to talk about risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is something that can change over time, but a certain amount of it is tied to your personality. Are you a risk taker? Do you like bungee jumping and skydiving and going really fast on a motorcycle? Are you all in at a casino? Are you a high risk person or are you a low risk person? Are you more cautious, more conservative? The way I think of risk tolerance is a scale of 0 to 10. And down at the bottom of the scale at 0 or 1, we've got people who are agoraphobic, people who struggle to leave the house. They really can't handle any amount of risk. Any amount of risk just absolutely overwhelms them. And then the people up at 9 or 10, those people are skydiving, bungee jumping, swimming with sharks, doing all of the crazy things that you see. Those are our thrill seekers. The person who skydived from space in the suit, just flying down, that's a 10 for risk tolerance. Someone who has a gambling addiction, that might be an 8 or 9 for risk tolerance. You don't really want to be at the highest or lowest end of the scale, because if you are a 1, well, you're going to miss out on a lot of life. A lot of life is risky. All of the greatest things in life involve risk. Applying for a job, applying for a school, going up and talking to someone you think you might be interested in getting to know, approaching them, beginning a conversation, traveling. All of these things involve risk. There's inherent risk, right? You could not get the job. You could not get the admission into the school. The person who you go talk to could turn you down. Traveling could end in disaster. You could get sick. You could get lost. So there are risks associated with all of the funnest and greatest things in life. Sports are so fun, but sports are a risk. You can get hurt in sports. Whether it's volleyball, soccer, football, basketball, you can get hurt. It's possible. But what are you going to do? Never play? Never play a game? You don't want to do that, right? So down at the very bottom end of the scale is really not where we want to be. But at the top end of the scale, as a 9 or a 10, that's not very nice to your mom, right? She has to worry all the time. What are they doing? Are they going to get hurt? Oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that thing. Oh, that's just so insane. Why are they doing this to me, right? Moms worry, and they worry because they care. So being a 9 or a 10 is a little bit rude to them. And it's more likely to end in tragedy, if we're being honest, right? It is more likely to end in bankruptcy, more likely to end in a hospital, because you're taking activities that are so high in risk, right? And especially when it comes to money, if you are at the highest end of the spectrum for risk, you're more likely to end up bankrupt. I mean, high risk, high reward, that's true, but usually that high of a risk has a 10% or less chance of working out. So anywhere between 3 and 8, I feel like is a good place to be for risk. You could be a really cautious, conservative person and take small risks and maybe slowly get ahead. That's more the hare approach in The Tortoise and the Hare. That's the slow and steady, consistent route. You're going to invest in things that have a guaranteed return, like a bond or a savings account or a certificate of deposit, maybe an ETF, right? Because ETFs are a basket of stocks that spread out your investment over a diversified portfolio of companies. So when it comes to risk tolerance, you can change how risk averse or risk tolerant you are. It's not set in stone. You're watching this now and you're like, oh, I'm a really cautious person, I don't think. You can flex that risk tolerance muscle. You can grow it. Increasing your knowledge about a thing will make that risk seem less. So oftentimes the more research you do, the more comfortable you feel engaging in that risk activity. Real world activities as well, not just in finance. If you want to travel, but you're nervous about it, the more research you do about Scotland before you get on the plane, the more comfortable you're going to feel in that environment when you get there. There is a point where you do need to act after information and knowledge, because some people fall into the trap of consuming information and knowledge forever and never acting. Because the information knowledge is like pseudo action. It feels like action without actually taking risk. But you need to get to the point where you're like, okay, I know enough to be comfortable with this risk, I'm getting on the plane. I know enough to feel comfortable with this risk, I'm going to invest the money. So it's important to find that balance point where you know enough to feel comfortable, but you haven't moved into information complacency, where you just continue learning and not taking action. So if it's a small risk with a few $100s or $1,000 or a couple thousand, a month or two of research, you should be ready to go. You should be ready to pull the trigger or move on. If it's a traveling experience or some other risk activity, if it's not that risky, a lot of other people are doing it, a month or 2 or 3 of research is as much as you need, and then you should pull the trigger. You don't want to be month 9 or 10 or year 3 on research for something that you can see a lot of other people doing. You've crossed over into information overload and freeze, right? You've frozen instead of taking action. And in future videos, I'm going to talk about what you can do as a higher risk person or as a lower risk person, what kind of portfolio you can put together of bonds and stocks and ETFs and commodities or crypto to feel that you are putting together an investment fund that you think clearly reflects you. Some people's risk tolerance is different when it comes to money than when it comes to real world experiences. They'll skydive and bungee jump all day, but they don't want to risk their savings account on an investment that they aren't certain will pay off. Or they're happy to risk money, but they really don't want to get out there and involve themselves in something dangerous, because everyone is different. And what works for one person will not necessarily work for another person. They'll say, I'm making 2%. I want to make more than this. This isn't enough. I'm getting bored. I want to take more risk, right? Or they'll say, this is too volatile. I really can't handle this ride. It's too up and down. I can't handle this. I really need to back off. Different people need different things, and it's important for you to begin your financial journey and start to pay attention to what you like to do with money so that you can manage that risk and create some kind of plan around your own risk tolerance. All right, so stay tuned for the rest of my personal finance series. I want to walk you through every aspect of personal finance: debt, credit cards, loans, real estate, taxes, saving, investing, digital currency, digital finance, so that you can have a really full understanding of personal finance. You don't have to take a college course. You can just watch this whole playlist, boom, you know everything I know. And I've got a master's in business, you'll know that much. All right, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next one.
Go on an adventure, go